This is an excerpt from the book Intuitive Eating by Evelyn Tribole and Elise Resch. No copyright intended. I just want to share the insight that this book gave me because of how much it helped me. Introduction. If you could crash in every diet like a frequent flyer program, most of us would have earned a trip to the moon and back. The nearly $60 billion a year weight loss industry could finance a trip for generations to come. Ironically, we seem to have more respect for our cars than ourselves. If you took your car to an auto mechanic for regular tune-ups, and after time and money spent, the car didn't work, you wouldn't blame yourself. Yet, in spite of the fact that 90 to 95% of all diets fail, you tend to blame yourself, not the diet. Isn't it ironic that with a massive failure rate of dieting, we don't blame the process of dieting? Initially, when we ventured into the world of private practice, we did not know each other, yet separately, each of us had remarkably similar counselling experiences that caused us to rethink how we work. This led us to considerable change in how we practice, and years later was the impetus of this book. Although we practiced independently from each other, unknowingly, each of us got started by making a vow to avoid the trap of working with weight control. We didn't want to deal with an issue that would only set us up to fail. But while we tried to avoid weight loss counselling, physicians kept referring their patients to us. Typically, their blood pressure or cholesterol was high. Whatever their medical problems, weight loss was thought to be the key to treatment. Because we wanted to help these patients, we embarked on the weight loss issue with a commitment to do it differently. Our patients would succeed. They would be among the small 5 to 10% success group. We created beautiful meal plans according to our patients' likes and dislikes, lifestyles and specific needs. These plans were based on widely accepted exchange systems, commonly used for diabetic meal planning and weight control. We told them that this would not be a diet, for even back then we knew diets didn't work. We rationalized that these meal plans were not diets because patients would choose among chicken, turkey, fish, or lean meat. They could have a bagel, a muffin, or toast. If they really wanted a cookie, they could just have one, not 5. We could fill up with the free foods galore so that they never had to feel hungry. We told them that if they had a craving for a particular food, we could go ahead and eat it without guilt. But we also reinforced gently yet firmly that sticking to their personalized meal plans would help them achieve their goals. As the weeks went by, our clients were eager to please us and followed their meal plans. We weighed them each week and finally their weight goals were met. Unfortunately, however, sometime later, we started getting calls from some of these same people telling us how much they needed us again. Somehow the weight had come back. Their calls were very apologetic. For some reason, they couldn't stick to the plan anymore. Maybe they needed somebody to monitor them. Maybe they didn't have enough self-control. Maybe they just weren't any good at this, and definitely they felt guilty and demoralized. In spite of the failure, our patients put all the blame on themselves. After all, they trusted us. We were the great nutritionists who would help them lose weight. Therefore, they had done something wrong, not us. As time went on, it became clear that something was very wrong with this approach. All our good intentions were only reinforced by some very negative, self-effacing notions that our patients had about themselves, that they didn't have self-control, they couldn't do it, and therefore that they were bad or wrong. This led to guilt, guilt, guilt. By this time, we had both reached a turning point in the way we counselled. How could we ethically go on teaching people things that seemed logical and nutritionally sound, yet triggered such emotional upheaval? Yet, on the other hand, how could we neglect an area of treatment that could have such profound effect on a patient's future health? As we struggled with these issues, we began to explore some of the popular literature that suggested a 180-degree departure from dieting. It proposed a way of eating that allowed for any and all food choices without regard for nutrition. Our initial reactions were highly skeptical, if not downright rejecting. We rejected with self-righteous indignation. How could we, as nutritionalists, registered dietitians, trained to look at the connections between nutrition and health, sanction a way of eating that seemed to reject the very foundation of our knowledge and philosophy? The struggle continued. The healthy meal plans were not helping people maintain permanent weight control, yet the throw-out nutrition approach was a dangerous option. The suggestion to ignore nutrition and disregard how the body feels in response to eating whatsoever you want discounts the respect for one's body that comes along with the gift of life. Eventually, we resolved the conflict by developing the intuitive eating process. This book is a bridge between the growing anti-diet movement and the health community. While the anti-dieting movement shuns dieting and hails body acceptance, thankfully, it often fails to address health risks. How do you reconcile forbidden food issues and still eat healthily while not dieting? We will tell you how in this book. If you are like most of our clients, you are wary of dieting and yet terrified of eating. Most of our clients are uncomfortable in their bodies but don't know how to change. Intuitive eating provides a way of eating that is ultimately struggle-free and healthy for your mind and body. It is a process that unleashes the shackles of dieting, which only lead to deprivation, rebellion, and rebound weight gain. It means getting back to your roots, trusting your body and its signals. Intuitive eating will not only change your relationship with food, it may change your life. We hope you find the intuitive eating will make a difference in your life, as it has for our clients. In fact, with our clients learning that we're writing this book, they want to share some specific turning points with you. Be sure to tell them that if they have a binge, it can actually turn out to be a great experience, because they'll learn so much about their thoughts and feelings as a result of the binge. Tell them that making a time out to see if they're hungry doesn't mean that they can't eat if they find they're not hungry. It's just time out to make sure that they're not eating on autopilot. If they want to eat anyway, they can. When I come to the session, I feel as if I'm going to the priest for confession. That comes from all times I used to go to the diet doctor, and I would have to tell him how I had sinned after he weighed me. This isn't coming from you, but the inner food police. I feel like I'm out of prison. I feel free, not thinking about food all the time anymore. Sometimes I get angry because food has lost its magic. Nothing tastes quite as good as it did when it was forbidden. I kept looking for the old thrill of food that it used to give me until I realized that my excitement in life wasn't going to come from my eating anymore. With permission comes choice, and making choices based on what I want and not what somebody else is telling me feels so empowering. After giving up binging, I ended up feeling pretty low, some of the time an even regretful feeling, rageful at other times. I realized that food was covering all my bad feelings, but it was also covering all my good feelings. I'd rather feel good and bad rather than not feeling at all. When I saw how much I was using dieting and eating to cope with life, I realized that I had to change some of the stress in my life if I ever wanted to let go of food as a coping mechanism. Sometimes I have hungry days, and sometimes I have full days. It's so nice to eat more sometimes and not feel guilty that I'm going against some plan. I'm so exhilarated when I see food. I used to restrict. Now I think it's free, it's there, and it's mine. I'm so glad you're writing this book. It will help me explain what I'm doing. All I know is that it works. When I'm in a diet mentality, I can't think about the real problems in my life. This is the best I've ever taken care of myself in my life with intuitive eating. Mindful eating versus intuitive eating. Is there a difference? When the first edition of Intuitive Eating was published in 1995, the term mindful eating was not in the public vernacular. Consequently, we use the term conscious eating to describe the process of being aware of eating. 4 years later, in 1999, the first mindful eating study was published. We actually now often use the term mindful eating because it has become commonly used and practiced. The center of mindful eating states that mindfulness in eating includes 1. Allowing yourself to become aware of the positive and nurturing opportunities that are available through food preparation and consumption by respecting your own inner wisdom. 2. Choosing to eat food that is both pleasing to you and nourishing to your body by using all your senses to explore, savor, and taste. 3. Acknowledging responses to food, likes, neutral, or dislikes, without judgment. 4. Learning to be aware of physical hunger and satiety cues to guide your decision to begin eating and to stop eating. While intuitive eating includes the principles of mindful eating, it also encompasses a broader philosophy addressing the issues of cognitive distortions and emotional eating. It includes seeing satisfaction as a focal point in eating. Physical activity, movements for the sake of feeling good, rejecting the dieting mentality, using nutritional information without judgment, and respecting your body regardless of how you feel about its shape. Intuitive eating is a dynamic process, integrating attunement of mind, body, and food. For those who struggle with eating issues, both mindful eating and intuitive eating can help facilitate normal eating.
Here are some interesting things I learned from chapter 1, hitting diet bottom. Sorry if you can hear the pages turning, I'll try and do it quietly. So, first of all, they tell a story about this girl called Sandra, whose story is so like my own and other people I've spoken to. It was kind of uncanny, and I thought it's good to share. So here it goes. I just can't go on another diet. You're my last resort. Sandra had been dieting all her life and knew she could no longer endure a single diet. She'd been on all of them: Atkins, Duncan, the Zone, South Beach, Grapefruit Diet, diets too numerous to itemize. Sandra was a dieting pro. At first, dieting was fun, even exhilarating. I definitely had that feeling. I always thought this diet would be different, this time, and so the cycle would recharge with each new diet, each and every summer. But the weight loss would eventually rebound like an unwanted tax bill. Sandra had hit diet bottom. By now, however, she was more obsessed with food and her body than ever. She felt silly. I should not have had to deal with this and should have controlled it long ago. What she didn't realize was that it was the process of dieting that had done this to her. Dieting had made her more preoccupied with food. Dieting had made food the enemy. Dieting had made her feel guilty when she wasn't eating diet types of food, even when she wasn't officially dieting. And dieting had slowed her metabolism. I think that's so important, that dieting makes you feel guilty for even the smallest bit of food that you enjoy, which isn't on the good food list, and it does slow your metabolism. And she explains why later on in this chapter. But first of all, she talks about the symptoms of diet backlash. So there's a kind of behaviors that people have after they give up a diet or before they're about to start a diet. I think these are so true. So she says, the mere contemplation of going on a diet brings on urges and cravings. That happened to me. So when I knew I was going to go on a diet on Monday, on Sunday I would eat chocolate brownies, cakes, carrot cake, anything that I was craving. And then afterwards I would feel terrible. Second, upon ending a diet, going on a food binge and feeling guilty. I did that as well. So when you finish a diet, you feel so relieved that you now have freedom, that you eat too much and you feel guilty afterwards. Third, having little trust in self with food. I definitely had that. So I didn't trust myself to eat desserts for a long time, and I stopped myself from eating desserts, but the backlash was that when I did allow myself to eat them, I just kind of ate them all the time because I felt like I'd been deprived of this wonderful thing which I enjoyed. Fourth, feeling that you don't deserve to eat. Definitely had that. You feel like you haven't done enough work, or you just don't deserve it because your body's not perfect or something like that, and that's a horrible feeling, and it's not a justified feeling. Fifth, shortening diet duration. So the lifespans of your diet get shorter, is what she's saying. Sixth, the Last Supper. Oh my goodness. Every diet is preceded by consuming foods you'd presume you won't eat again. So, all the good sweets and everything that you crave for, and you kind of say goodbye to them. by eating them all, and you think that you can maybe savor it in your mind when you give it up. Seventh, social withdrawal. This definitely happened to me. So this is when you think it's easier to diet if you don't go out and party or go out for dinners when there's food everywhere. So you think, for the sake of dieting or for the sake of my health, I'm going to not go out so much and interact and, go to parties and things like that. But there are unintended consequences of that, is that it's definitely the social withdrawal. And also this can escalate to bigger problems, like a fear of not being in control. And penultimate, sluggish metabolism. So Tribole and Resch argue that each diet teaches your body to adapt better for the next self-imposed famine. So the metabolism slows so that the body can efficiently use each calorie. And then another one is using caffeine to survive during the day. So that's abusing caffeine and using it too much. And lastly, eating disorders. They argue that finally, repeated dieting can often be a stepping stone to eating disorders. Okay, next page, turn it quietly. Okay, the dieting paradox. So this is they talk a little bit about the background of perhaps why we might be motivated to lose weight. And they say that our society is in the pursuit of thinness. And they say that weight loss is not just a women's issue, that the pursuit of leanness has crossed the gender barrier. So we've seen the proliferation of light beer commercials that kind of appeal to the very body-conscious man's mind and talk about having a lean belly. So it's no coincidence we've seen the launch of magazines that are aimed at men, like Men's Health and Men's Fitness. So it's a problem that's crossed the gender line, although mostly, we see women talking about it. And they also said something very true, that often the dieter laments that if only I had the willpower. We always think there's something wrong with our willpower, that we're too weak or not good enough, and that's why this diet failed. But clearly, they say, it's not an issue of willpower. They say that when underfed, you will obsess about food, whether from a self-imposed diet or starvation. So they do argue that going on a diet... Oh wait, let me read the exact words to you because they put it so well. So they give a number of studies about people who have put children, soldiers, men, women on diets and seen whether over time they've gained weight or lost weight. And they kind of show how dieting can actually make you gain weight. And if you want to hear more about it, there's some great presentations on YouTube with Evelyn Tribole, and she will show you some of the studies. So this really opened up my thinking about it. They said, studies aside, what has your dieting experiences shown you? Many of our patients and workshop participants say that their first diet was easy. Biologically, your body experiences the dieting process as a form of starvation. When I read that, I was like, what? But it's so true. Your cells don't know you are voluntarily restricting your food intake. Your body shifts into primal survival mode. Metabolism slows down and food cravings escalate. And with each diet, the body learns and adapts, resulting in the rebound of weight gain. Consequently, many of our patients feel like they are a failure, but it is the dieting that has failed them. I thought that was so true, and I'd never thought about it before, that biologically your body experiences the dieting process as a form of starvation. So obviously your body, being the clever mechanism it is, helps you out and makes you store food better and store energy better, and maybe keep more fat in there so that you can sustain yourself because you're dieting.